let's do a navigation of a NotebookLM. All right, let's start on the left. These are our sources. And you can add a source. Here you can upload a file. And these are the types of file: PDFs, text files, audio files, and I've discovered you can actually upload short MPEG-4 video files as well. You can also add documents directly from Google Docs. When you click that, that will open up your Google Drive and you can select a document there to add. And when you select it, just hit the insert button down there. We're not going to add that one. So you can also upload links to websites. Just paste the address in there and insert it. You can also, as you saw, upload YouTube videos by pasting the URL to the URL. And if it's allowed, if it's a public YouTube video, it'll load that up. And the other ways to add it is just to paste in text. So you might go to a website, hit Control A, which highlights everything on the page, Control C, which copies everything, and then you come here and then you hit Control V, and it'll paste everything from the website. Just for example, okay, there's a website here called Geeks. So it's got all this information on the page. So when you hit Control A, it copies all the text on the page, as you can see. Then you hit Control C, and that copies all that text. And then you come back into your document, copy the text, highlight it there and hit Control V, and everything on that page will now be copied into as a source document into your notebook. But we're not going to insert that one, but just as an example. All right, so these are all your sources. Now, once you've actually uploaded a source, you can click on it and it will actually give you all the data that it's drawing from as the source. So you can double check things there. If you click this up the top and this one here, it will actually open that website that you've derived that information from, so you can double check where it's coming from. All right. Now, these little check boxes down here means that when you ask a question, it will tell you here how many of these sources it's drawing on to answer your inquiry. If you click the top, select all sources, it will then uncheck all of the things in the source box. So if you wanted to just question one particular source, you checkbox it. You will see that it's only drawing on this one source when it answers questions here in the chat. So you can ask a question here, you know, what are the company tax rates in 2025? And it will then answer your query based on that one source in the chat over here. Whereas if you selected all the sources and asked that same question, what are the company tax rates, it will probably give you a much more extensive answer. It's waiting because now it's drawing on 28 sources when it answers your question. Yep, so then it gives you the full bottle on it. Okay, so that's sources over here. When you're asking questions in the chat, you can configure how it answers the questions here. If you want it to give a guide, you click this box here, and you can have a shorter response or a longer response. So if we go as a guide, longer, save that in the settings that you've done here, and then we'll go and ask that same question, what are the company tax rates? And it will give you a completely different format when it answers that question. And it's more, in the guide, it's more like a step-by-step tutorial type outlay. Okay, so it answers the question. It also has these follow-ups down the bottom. Now, it's always good. You can highlight this, give examples of how to use these tax offsets. So you can copy that, you can paste that then in the chat, and it will start generating some examples. And these examples are always good. It's just like having a case study. Okay, so it is an example for a small business, does the offset calculations, and it actually works through the example. So it's really handy. But let's just go back here. I'll leave it set as the default for both of those and save that. But that's up here that you can say what sort of output did you get in the chat. All right. When it's generated a response, you'll see this little save to note. And if you click that, it will save over here on the right-hand side. So you've asked it a specific question, but if you want to save the answer to it, that specific question, you save it as a note. So this information here is now saved as a note. So you can always refer to it, because if you click this refresh button here, it will erase everything that's in the current chat. But if you've saved that note, you can actually find it again in the notes section on the right-hand side. Now, the other little tip is these three vertical dots here allow you to convert that particular note into a source document over here. So you'll see this Australian R&D tax offset, the business guide. If you click this convert to source, you will find that this R&D tax business guide is now showing up. You see that one that just got created? It has now added that into the source document. So every time if you've selected it, it will answer questions in the chat based on that. So if we click on that, you will see that this note has been converted into a source document. Now, one of the things I like to do is to select one particular document, and in that you can create a briefing document based on one source. So we can click that. You can create also a study guide based on that one source. And these I find really useful, and I'll show you why in a second. Okay, here is the briefing document. So it's taken all the information from this source document, and it's in a logical way given you a point-by-point breakdown. That's what a briefing document looks like. But I love to use the study guides. So it gives you a quiz. It gives you all these questions. Then it gives you the answers to the questions. Then it gives you these essay type questions. but also gives a glossary of terms. Now, how I use this is that based on one source, I'll generate a study guide, but then I will select all sources and I'll copy and paste the essay questions and ask it to generate answers in an essay format, but based on all of the available documents. Now, when it's done that, so it's now referencing, you click on any of these citations, it'll tell you which document it's drawing on. Some of them are coming from citation number 13, some of them are coming from 26, some of them are coming from 27. So then I save that as a note. I'll go back to the study guide. I'll ask the next essay question. I'll paste that in, and based on the 29 sources, it will then answer that particular essay question. So you can see it's drawing on multiple sources, source 5, so 14 and 15. So when we save that as a note, this is where it gets very powerful, is that when you click over here, you can convert that note, but you convert all the notes to source. So every one of these notes that you've generated now gets converted into the source documents, and you'll find it over here, all notes. So it's just a way to weave the information cross-reference from all the different sources into the brain, into the source document. So there's all sorts of different ways you can use it. Then, of course, if you selected one particular source, so we'll go up here, we'll select one particular source, then we can create an audio overview. This is our husband and wife podcast. So when you create a podcast, you can select from the source documents what information the podcast is using when it's created. You can have multiple sources, or you can just have the one source, or you can have all the sources when it creates the podcast. And when it creates the podcast, if you click on this little edit button here, you can then ask it. You can do longer ones, shorter ones, or you can say, give us a short one, but you can actually say, focus just on AI, R, and D incentives. So you can customize the podcast by a topic that you give it here. You can make it shorter or longer. And these are just new. The critique and the debate. I haven't experimented. These are only brand new in the last couple of days. I normally do the deep dive, but now you can select these multiple versions of the podcast based on these. And then you click generate and it'll start generating. You've also got these video overviews, which is a new thing. And this creates a slideshow, a narrated video slideshow. Another great resource is the mind map. So let's just go to the one document, all support for SMEs in 2025. Ask it to produce a mind map. And these mind maps are great because it gives you a visual on a categorized visual of how all the data fits together. So when you open these mind maps, it will show what the topic is, the importance, but when you click the arrow, it breaks it down into the subtopics within that major topic. And some of them you've got extra subtopics within them. And the amazing thing is that if you click on any one of these things, you double click it, and it will then, from the source documents, bring up the information particular to that aspect of the mind map, and it gives it to you in the chat. So that's another really useful way to navigate around all the documents over here. And you can zoom in and zoom out. You just arrow it back and it'll shrink it back. State government support, Victoria. And if you click on that, that will actually tell you what a Victoria class. And of course, these mind maps you can also download. And if you look at what the mind map looks like, it actually will give you a picture of that aspect of the mind map. So there's all sorts of things you can do with it. Anyway, but if you're going to construct something from scratch, let's create one from scratch. So if you were doing it on another topic, you'd create a new notebook. And the trick is, the name of the notebook is really based on the first source that you give it. You can change the name later, but the first source is what the name of the notebook is going to be based on. So you can do it on a YouTube video, something that you upload yourself, but that becomes the first name of the notebook, is the first source that you actually select. Anyway, that's a bit of a rundown on how to use it. You can generate it in different languages too if you want to get carried away. But there's all sorts of things you can do with these notebooks. They're just, this one here is a new function too, Discover. Now you can put in a topic, like you might want to do YouTube making money from ads. You might put there in the topic, and when you hit submit, it will then search just like a normal Google search, and it will recommend sources that you can add into your document. You can select them all, or you can go one by one. How to make money off videos. So you can select that, but you can also preview it by opening that in a new window. So you can pre-screen it to see if that's something you'd like as a source document. And if it is, you just click import. That now becomes a source that you can draw on. And since it's the first article, it will then name your notebook based on the first source. And you can see that that's the source that's imported. Anyway, that's a bit of a starting point, but it's just a fantastic resource. It's the best thing about these Google Notebooks. Are just awesome. All right, signing off. Bye.